This is the story of two great men. One is Bill Gates. The other is Steve Jobs. Both are famous all over the world. They helped to change the world with computers. People know them as rivals. But one day, Bill Gates helped Steve Jobs. This is a true story. It is also a very inspiring story. Bill Gates started Microsoft. Steve Jobs started Apple. In the 1980s and 1990s, they both worked hard to make new computers. They wanted to be the best. Sometimes, they were friends. Sometimes, they were enemies. But they both had one big dream, to make great technology for people. In the 1990s, Apple was in trouble. The company was losing money. Many people thought Apple would close. Steve Jobs came back to help Apple. But it was not easy. He needed help. He needed money. Then, something surprising happened. Bill Gates, his old rival, came to help him. Many people were shocked. Bill Gates gave Apple $150 million. He also promised to make Microsoft Office for Apple computers. This was a big moment. Bill Gates did not have to help. But he did. He wanted Apple to stay alive. He said, "We need Apple to do well. We need competition. We all win when we all do well." This moment changed everything. Apple did not close. Steve Jobs worked hard and made new products. Later, he made the iMac, iPod, iPhone, and iPad. Apple became strong again. Some people say Bill Gates saved Apple. Others say he saved Steve Jobs. In a way, he saved both. This story is not just about money or business. It is about vision, respect, and second chances. It teaches us something important. Even when people compete, they can still help each other. Even when things are hard, a small act of kindness can change the future. Students and young people can learn many lessons from this story. We can learn that help can come from anyone, even from a rival. We can learn that teamwork and respect are more powerful than pride. We can also learn that it is never too late to grow, to change, and to help others. This video will tell you the full story. You will learn about the past. You will learn how Steve Jobs came back to Apple. You will learn how Bill Gates made a big decision. You will see how two men shaped the future of technology, and how one moment of help made a big difference. Are you ready to begin this inspiring journey? Let us start the story of how Bill Gates saved Steve Jobs. Chapter 1: The Early Rivalry. In the early days of computers, two young men had big dreams. One was Steve Jobs. The other was Bill Gates. They were both smart, creative, and full of energy. They wanted to change the world with technology. But they had different ideas and different styles. Steve Jobs started a company called Apple in 1976. He worked with his friend Steve Wozniak. Together, they made the Apple I and then the Apple II. These were some of the first personal computers. People liked them because they were small and easy to use. Bill Gates started Microsoft in 1975 with his friend Paul Allen. Microsoft did not make computers. Instead, they made software. Software is the program that tells a computer what to do. Microsoft's first big success was a program called BASIC. It helped people write simple code. At first, Steve and Bill were not rivals. In fact, Apple and Microsoft worked together. In the early 1980s, Steve Jobs asked Bill Gates to make software for the new Apple computer. This computer was called the Macintosh. It had a mouse and pictures on the screen, which was new at that time. Bill Gates and his team made programs like Word and Excel for the Macintosh. But things changed quickly. In 1985, Microsoft made its own computer system called Windows. Windows looked a lot like the Macintosh. It had icons, windows, and a mouse pointer. Steve Jobs was very angry. He said Bill Gates had copied Apple. But Bill said, "We both had this rich neighbor named Xerox, and I broke into his house to steal the TV, and you broke in later to steal it too." This was a joke, but it showed how they saw things differently. The rivalry grew stronger. Apple said they were the cool, creative company. Microsoft was the big, boring company. But Microsoft kept growing. More people bought Windows computers because they were cheaper. By the 1990s, Microsoft was the biggest software company in the world. Apple was losing money and falling behind. Steve Jobs left Apple in 1985. He started a new company called Next. Bill Gates kept working at Microsoft and became very rich. People started to think that Bill Gates had won. But the story was not over. This early rivalry showed how different Steve and Bill were. Steve loved design and beauty. He wanted every Apple product to look perfect. Bill loved logic and numbers. He wanted software that worked fast and sold well. They had different ways, but they both wanted to lead the computer world. Even when they disagreed, they respected each other's talent. Their rivalry pushed both of them to work harder. It helped bring new ideas to life. Without this early competition, the world of technology might have looked very different. In the next chapter, we will see how this rivalry changed into something more surprising, a story of help and support. Chapter 2: Macintosh and the Microsoft Deal. In the early 1980s, Steve Jobs had a big idea. He wanted to make a new kind of computer. It would be easy to use and beautiful to look at. This computer was called the Macintosh. Steve believed it would change the world. The Macintosh had something special. It used a mouse and had pictures, called icons, on the screen. People could click on these pictures instead of typing commands. This was new and exciting. Steve wanted the best software for this new computer. So, he asked Microsoft to help. At that time, Microsoft was not very big. But Bill Gates was smart and fast. He said yes to Steve Jobs. Microsoft began to work on software for the Macintosh. They made programs like Word and Excel. These programs helped people write documents and do math. Steve was happy because the Macintosh now had useful tools. Apple and Microsoft worked together for a while. But things started to change. While working with Apple, Bill Gates saw how the Macintosh worked. He liked the idea of pictures, windows, and a mouse. He thought it was the future. So, Microsoft began to make its own system, called Windows. When Steve Jobs saw Windows, he was very angry. He thought Bill Gates had copied Apple. He said, "You are stealing from us." But Bill Gates replied, "We both got the idea from Xerox." Xerox was a company that first made a computer with pictures and a mouse. Both Apple and Microsoft had learned from Xerox. Even though they had problems, the Macintosh and Microsoft deal was important. It helped bring new ideas into the world. The Macintosh showed that computers could be fun and easy to use. Microsoft learned from Apple and made Windows better. More people started using computers. The Macintosh was beautiful, but it was also expensive. Not many people bought it at first. Windows computers were cheaper. So, more schools, homes, and offices chose Windows. Microsoft grew fast, and Bill Gates became very rich. Apple started to struggle. But the Macintosh left a strong mark. It changed the way people thought about computers. Steve Jobs was sad about the problems with Microsoft. He felt betrayed. But he also knew that his dream of friendly computers was coming true. Even if more people used Windows, the Macintosh was still important. It had started something new. The deal between Apple and Microsoft was not simple. It was a mix of teamwork and competition. They helped each other, but they also became rivals. This chapter in their story shows how big ideas can come from both friendship and conflict. In the next chapter, we will see how Windows became more popular and how the fight between Apple and Microsoft grew stronger. We will also learn what happened to Steve Jobs after he left Apple. The story is just beginning. Chapter 3: The Rise of Windows. After working with Apple on the Macintosh, Bill Gates and Microsoft had their own big plans. They wanted to make a computer system for everyone. This system would be easy to use and cheaper than the Macintosh. It was called Windows. Windows first came out in 1985. It had pictures and icons like the Macintosh. People could use a mouse to open files and programs. It was not perfect at the start, but Microsoft kept improving it. Step by step, Windows became better and faster. One big reason for the rise of Windows was that Microsoft made deals with many computer makers. These companies built the computers, and Microsoft gave them the Windows system. This way, Windows was on many different computers, not just one. These computers were also cheaper than Apple's Macintosh. Many people, schools, and businesses began using Windows. They liked that it worked well and cost less. Microsoft Office, which included Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, became very popular. It helped people write, calculate, and make presentations. It was simple and useful. Microsoft became the leader in software. During this time, Steve Jobs was no longer at Apple. He had left the company in 1985. Without Steve, Apple was not doing well. The company made some new computers, but they did not sell much. People said Apple was falling. At the same time, Microsoft was rising fast. By the 1990s, Windows was the most used computer system in the world. Microsoft had become a giant company. Bill Gates was now one of the richest people on earth. He was smart, focused, and worked very hard. Many people saw him as a great business leader. Some people said Microsoft was too big. They thought it had too much power. In 1998, the US government started a case against Microsoft. They said the company was not playing fair. But even with this problem, Windows stayed strong. It was in homes, offices, and schools all over the world. The rise of Windows changed everything. More people now had computers in their homes. They could write emails, play games, and learn new things. Microsoft had helped to bring computers to the world. It was a big moment in history. While Microsoft was winning, Apple was losing. Without Steve Jobs, the company was not the same. Many people thought Apple would die soon. But something unexpected was about to happen. In the next chapter, we will learn how Steve Jobs came back to Apple. We will also see how he met Bill Gates again, and how Bill did something surprising to help his old rival. The story of Windows and Apple was not over yet. A new chapter was about to begin. Chapter 4, Apple's struggles in the 1990s. In the 1990s, Apple was in big trouble. The company that once changed the computer world was now falling behind. Without Steve Jobs, Apple was not the same. Many people inside and outside the company were worried. Steve Jobs had left Apple in 1985. After he left, different leaders tried to run the company. They made many computers, but most of them were not successful. Some were too expensive. Others were too slow. Apple also made many different models, and this confused customers. People did not know which Apple computer to buy. At the same time, Microsoft was growing fast. More people were using Windows computers because they were cheaper and worked with more software. Businesses, schools, and homes all started to choose Windows. Apple's market share got smaller every year. Apple also lost money. In the early 1990s, they still had some good products like the PowerBook laptop. But new products like the Newton, a small handheld computer, failed in the market. Apple spent a lot of money to make these products, but they did not sell well. The company started to lose millions of dollars. By the mid-1990s, Apple was in crisis. Sales were low, and the company was losing money quickly. People started to ask, will Apple survive? Some newspapers and magazines even wrote that Apple was dying. The stock price dropped, and workers at Apple were unsure about the future. The company tried to fix things by working with other businesses. They also tried to build a new operating system. But nothing worked. Apple needed strong leadership, a new plan, and help from outside. Many people believed Apple had good ideas but bad management. Their computers looked nice and were easy to use, but they were too costly. Windows computers became the better choice for most people. During this hard time, some people inside Apple thought of one person who could save the company: Steve Jobs. He was the man who helped build Apple in the first place. He had new ideas and strong vision. But Steve was not at Apple anymore. He had started a new company called Next. In 1996, Apple made a big decision. They bought Steve Jobs' company, Next, for over $400 million. This deal brought Steve back to Apple. At first, he was just an advisor. But soon, he became the CEO again. Many people were surprised, but some were hopeful. Apple's struggles in the 1990s were a low point. The company had lost its way. It had lost money, customers, and ideas. But change was coming. Steve Jobs was back. And with him came new hope, new products, and a chance to save Apple. In the next chapter, we will see how Steve Jobs started to rebuild Apple. But he needed help, and the person who helped him was someone very unexpected: Bill Gates. Chapter 5. Steve Jobs returns to Apple. In 1996, Apple was close to failure. The company had lost money, lost customers, and lost its way. But something important happened that year. Apple decided to bring back Steve Jobs, the man who started the company many years before. After Steve Jobs left Apple in 1985, he started a new company called Next. Next made computers for schools and businesses. These computers were powerful but expensive. Not many people bought them. Still, the software and ideas at Next were strong and modern. Apple was trying to build a new operating system, but their work was slow and not successful. They needed something better. So, Apple made a big decision. They bought Next for over $400 million. This brought Steve Jobs back to the company. At first, Steve was not the CEO. He was only an advisor. But he quickly started to make changes. He spoke to the workers, asked questions, and gave new ideas. People at Apple began to listen to him. They saw his passion and vision. In 1997, Steve Jobs became the CEO of Apple once again. Steve found many problems at Apple. There were too many products. The company was spending too much money. He said, "We need to focus." He stopped many projects and kept only the most important ones. He wanted to make a few great products instead of many average ones. One of the first things he did was to make the company simple and clear. He made a new product plan. It had just 4 parts: one for home users, one for professionals, one for laptops, and one for desktop computers. This helped Apple save money and work faster. Steve Jobs also changed how Apple looked and felt. He brought back good design and new ideas. He worked closely with designers and engineers. He wanted Apple products to be both beautiful and easy to use. The company started to feel alive again. Even with all these changes, Apple still had one big problem: money. They were still losing money and needed help. Steve Jobs knew that Apple could not survive alone. He had to do something bold. He reached out to an old rival, Bill Gates. Many people were surprised. Steve and Bill had been rivals for years. But now, Steve needed help, and Bill was ready to listen. Together, they made a new deal that would help Apple stay alive. Steve Jobs' return to Apple was the first step in a great comeback. He brought new energy, new ideas, and new hope. He helped the company start again. But he could not do it alone. In the next chapter, we will learn about the famous $150 million deal. We will see how Bill Gates helped Steve Jobs and Apple. This was one of the most surprising and important moments in tech history. Chapter 6. The $150 million lifeline. In 1997, Apple was still in big trouble. Even though Steve Jobs had returned, the company had no money to grow. It needed help, and it needed help fast. Without it, Apple could die. Then something very surprising happened. Steve Jobs called someone unexpected, Bill Gates. Bill Gates was the head of Microsoft. For many years, Apple and Microsoft were rivals. They had fought in the computer market. Steve Jobs and Bill Gates had very different ideas. People thought they were enemies. But Steve knew that Apple needed help to survive, and he believed Bill could help. Steve and Bill had many meetings. They talked about the future. Steve asked Bill for support, and Bill agreed. In August 1997, during the Macworld event, Steve Jobs stood on stage and made a big announcement. He told the world that Microsoft was going to invest $150 million in Apple. The crowd was shocked. Many people could not believe it. Then, on a big screen, Bill Gates appeared by video from Microsoft's office. He smiled and said Microsoft would support Apple. This moment became famous. People were surprised because Bill Gates was once seen as the man who beat Apple. But now, he was helping to save it. Microsoft also agreed to continue making Microsoft Office for the Mac. This was very important because many people used Office for work and school. Without it, they might stop using Apple computers. There was another part of the deal. Apple agreed to stop any legal fights with Microsoft. In the past, Apple had said that Microsoft copied their ideas. But now, they wanted to move forward. They wanted peace and progress. The $150 million was like a lifeline, a rope that saved someone from drowning. It gave Apple time. It gave Steve Jobs a chance to rebuild. Most of all, it gave people hope that Apple could survive. Some Apple fans were not happy. They did not like Microsoft. They thought Apple should not take money from a rival. But Steve Jobs said something wise. He said, "We have to let go of the idea that for Apple to win, Microsoft has to lose." He wanted to build a strong future, not fight old battles. This deal helped Apple stay alive. It also showed something important: even big rivals can work together. Sometimes, help comes from the most unexpected place. Bill Gates did not have to help, but he did. His decision changed the future of Apple, and maybe the future of technology. With this lifeline, Steve Jobs started to plan new things. He had ideas that would change the world. But none of it could happen without the help from Bill Gates. In the next chapter, we will learn about the day Bill Gates appeared at Macworld 1997. It was a moment people never forgot, a moment when two rivals came together to shape the future. Chapter 7. Bill Gates at Macworld 1997. It was August 1997. Apple was in deep trouble. Steve Jobs had returned to the company, but many people still thought Apple would not survive. Then came the Macworld event in Boston. This was one of the biggest computer shows in the world. Apple fans, workers, and the media were all watching. Everyone wanted to know what Steve Jobs would say. Steve walked onto the stage. He looked calm but serious. He knew people were worried. Apple had lost money and had no clear future. Steve had a surprise to share, and it would shock the whole tech world. He told the crowd that Apple had made a deal with Microsoft. Microsoft would invest $150 million in Apple. Also, Microsoft Office and Internet Explorer would continue to be made for the Mac. These were very important programs. Without them, many people would not use Apple computers. But the biggest surprise was still to come. Steve said, "Let's welcome Bill Gates." Suddenly, a big video screen lit up. There was Bill Gates, live by satellite, speaking from Microsoft's office. The crowd was silent. Some people even booed. Bill Gates, the rival of Steve Jobs, was now helping Apple. Bill Gates looked calm and friendly. He said Microsoft wanted to help Apple and believed in its future. He promised to support Apple with software. He said competition was good for the industry. He believed that both Microsoft and Apple could win. This was a very important moment. Two great leaders, who had once fought each other, were now working together. It showed that the future of technology was more important than old rivalries. Steve Jobs told the crowd that Apple needed to look forward, not back. He said, We have to stop thinking that for Apple to win, Microsoft has to lose. Many people did not know what to think. Some were angry. Others were happy. But everyone knew this was a turning point. Apple had a second chance. And Bill Gates had helped make that possible. This moment was about more than just money. It was about respect, change, and a new way of thinking. It showed that even big rivals could come together for a greater purpose. Steve Jobs and Bill Gates had both grown. They knew that working together could help millions of people. Bill Gates at Macworld 1997 became a symbol of hope. It was the start of Apple's comeback. With the money and support from Microsoft, Steve Jobs could begin to rebuild. He had big plans. The world didn't know it yet, but Apple was about to rise again. In the next chapter, we will learn about the Apple-Microsoft alliance. It was more than just a business deal. It was the beginning of a new era in technology. Chapter 8: The Apple-Microsoft Alliance. In 1997, something very special happened. Apple and Microsoft, two big rivals, became partners. This new partnership was called the Apple-Microsoft Alliance. It was a big surprise to many people. For years, Apple and Microsoft had fought each other. Apple said Microsoft copied their ideas. Microsoft said they were just doing business. Many people thought they would never work together. But things changed when Steve Jobs returned to Apple. Apple was not doing well. The company had lost a lot of money. It needed help to stay alive. Steve Jobs made a bold choice. He called Bill Gates, the head of Microsoft. He asked for help. Bill Gates agreed. This was the beginning of the alliance. As part of the deal, Microsoft gave Apple $150 million. This money helped Apple pay its bills and keep working. But the deal had more than just money. Microsoft also promised to make its Office software for Apple computers. This was very important. Office included Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, programs that many people used for school and work. The deal also said that Apple would include Microsoft's web browser, Internet Explorer, on its computers. This helped Microsoft too. Both companies agreed to stop fighting in court. They wanted to focus on the future, not the past. Many people were shocked. Apple and Microsoft had been enemies. But now, they were helping each other. Some Apple fans were angry. They did not like Microsoft. But Steve Jobs told them to look at the bigger picture. He said Apple needed to survive. Working with Microsoft was the right thing to do. This alliance gave Apple something very important: time. With this support, Apple could start to build again. Steve Jobs could now focus on new ideas and new products. He had a plan to make Apple strong once more. The Apple-Microsoft alliance was a lesson for everyone. It showed that even big rivals can become partners. It showed that respect and teamwork are more powerful than anger and pride. It also showed that help can come from the most unlikely place. Bill Gates did not have to help Apple. Microsoft was already the biggest software company in the world. But Bill saw something special. He knew that a world with both Apple and Microsoft was better than a world with only one. Thanks to this alliance, Apple got a second chance. Steve Jobs used that chance very well. In the years that followed, he created amazing products like the iMac, iPod, iPhone, and iPad. Apple became strong again. Some people say it became even stronger than Microsoft. In the next chapter, we will see how this alliance helped Apple grow. We will learn how Steve Jobs and his team used this new beginning to create something great. The story of Apple was not over. In fact, it was just getting started. Chapter 9: Impact on Apple's Revival. After the Apple-Microsoft alliance in 1997, things slowly started to change. Apple was not strong yet, but it had hope. The $150 million from Microsoft gave Apple time. Steve Jobs used that time very well. He began to fix the company step by step. This was the start of Apple's revival. One of the first things Steve Jobs did was to focus the company. Before, Apple had many different products. This confused customers. Steve made things simple. He reduced the number of computers Apple made. He created a simple chart with only 4 main products: for home, for work, a desktop, and a laptop. This clear plan helped Apple save money and work faster. In 1998, Apple launched a new computer called the iMac. It looked very different. It was colorful, round, and fun. It also worked well. People loved it. The iMac helped bring Apple back into the spotlight. It was a big success. It showed the world that Apple could still make exciting and useful products. The iMac also brought new customers to Apple. It was easy to use and perfect for people who had never owned a computer before. The design was beautiful, and it made people smile. This was just the beginning. Apple also worked hard on its software. Steve Jobs wanted Apple computers to have their own operating system, not just Microsoft Office. Apple created Mac OS X. It was strong, fast, and safe. This made Apple computers even better. At the same time, Apple stores started to open. These stores looked clean, modern, and simple. People could come in, ask questions, and try the products. The Apple Store became very popular. It helped people connect with the brand. All of these things, new products, better software, and great stores, helped Apple grow again. Slowly, the company started to make money. People began to believe in Apple again. The media started writing good things about the company. The stock price went up. The revival was real. But none of this could have happened without the help from Microsoft. The money and support gave Apple time to plan. The Office software helped customers stay with Apple. And the peace between the two companies allowed Steve Jobs to focus on the future. The impact of this revival was huge. Apple went from near death to great success. In the next years, the company launched the iPod, the iPhone, and the iPad. These products changed the world. The Apple-Microsoft alliance gave Apple a second chance. Steve Jobs used that chance to build something amazing. The lessons from this time are clear. Teamwork, focus, and vision can bring success. Even when things seem lost, the right help and the right ideas can bring a company back to life. In the next and final chapter, we will learn about the legacy of this story. How did this moment between two rivals shape the future of technology and business? Let's find out. Chapter 10: Legacy of the Unexpected Partnership. The partnership between Apple and Microsoft in 1997 was a surprise to the world. Two big rivals came together to help each other. Many people did not believe it at first. But this unexpected partnership changed the future of both companies and the world of technology. When Bill Gates and Steve Jobs made the deal, Apple was weak. Microsoft was strong. But Bill Gates saw something important. He saw that Apple still had good ideas and good people. He believed the world needed Apple to stay alive. So, he gave Apple $150 million and promised to support Microsoft Office on the Mac. This gave Apple a second chance. The legacy of this partnership is very powerful. First, it saved Apple. Without Microsoft's help, Apple may have closed. But the money and support gave Steve Jobs time to fix the company. He made smart choices, cut down product lines, and focused on design and user experience. Very soon, Apple became strong again. Second, it changed how people saw competition. Before, people thought companies had to fight to win. But Steve Jobs and Bill Gates showed something different. They showed that even rivals can work together. They proved that helping others can be a smart and kind thing to do. Third, this partnership helped bring new products into the world. After Apple became stable, Steve Jobs and his team created the iPod, iPhone, and iPad. These products changed the way people listen to music, talk to each other, and use the internet. Many of these ideas may not have happened without the time and support given by the Microsoft deal. The partnership also helped Bill Gates. People saw him in a new light. He was not just a businessman, he was also someone who believed in fairness and growth. He did not try to destroy Apple when it was weak. Instead, he helped it get stronger. This moment in 1997 is now remembered as one of the most important in tech history. It teaches a lesson to all companies and all people. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to give it, even to a rival. The world works better when we work together. In the years that followed, Apple became one of the biggest and most loved companies in the world. Microsoft continued to grow and change too. Both companies shaped the future of technology. And it all started with a phone call, a deal, and a moment of trust. The legacy of the unexpected partnership between Steve Jobs and Bill Gates is not just about money or business. It is about vision, respect, and second chances. It is a story that shows the power of doing what is right, even when it is surprising. This is the end of our journey. From rivalry to respect, from struggle to success, this story reminds us that anything is possible, with help, with hope, and with heart. Vocabularies. 1. Rival, a person or company who competes with another to be better. 2. Alliance, a partnership or agreement to work together. 3. Revival, a time when something becomes strong or successful again. 4. Legacy, something important left behind after someone is gone. 5. Survive, to stay alive or continue to exist. 6. Investment, money given to a company to help it grow. 7. Focus, to pay attention to one main thing. 8. Failure, when something does not succeed. 9. Support, help or assistance. 10. Second chance, a new opportunity to try again after a failure. Quiz questions. 1. Who were the two tech leaders involved in the early rivalry? 2. What computer did Steve Jobs ask Microsoft to help with in the 1980s? 3. What was the name of Microsoft's computer system that became popular? 4. What major problem did Apple face in the 1990s? 5. Which company did Apple buy to bring Steve Jobs back? 6. How much money did Microsoft invest in Apple in 1997? 7. At which event did Bill Gates appear by video to support Apple? 8. What important software did Microsoft promise to continue making for Apple? 9. What product helped Apple become popular again in 1998? 10. What is the main lesson from the Apple-Microsoft partnership? Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed learning with us. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends and family. Your support helps us grow and bring you more inspiring stories and easy English learning content. Do you have a topic you'd like us to cover in our next video? Maybe a famous person, an invention, or a country. Let us know in the comments or messages. We'd love to hear your ideas. You can find answers in the description. Thanks again, and keep learning with us. See you in the next video.